Pennsylvania might sell you postcards of rolling hills and historic landmarks, but step into the wrong town, and it feels less like Americana and more like survival mode. High crime, broken economies, and houses so cheap they're practically warning labels. Today, we're counting down 15 towns in Pennsylvania you should never move to, because behind the Liberty Bells shine are places that could break your wallet, your safety, and your peace of mind. Let the countdown begin. Number 15. Reading. Reading is often painted as one of Pennsylvania's most miserable cities, and the numbers back it up. Nearly 26.6% of residents live below the poverty line, making daily survival a challenge for thousands of families. Median income sits around $28,755, which is shockingly low compared to the state's $76,000. High school graduation rates struggle, with performance nearly 45% below the national average, locking many into cycles of limited opportunity. Unemployment hovers at 11.6%, meaning jobs aren't just scarce, they're nearly absent. Walk the streets and you'll see boarded-up buildings where businesses once thrived, replaced by a sense of resignation. On paper, housing looks cheap, but cheap doesn't equal hopeful. The truth is clear. Reading is fighting a battle it hasn't been winning. And here's the real question. If this is one of Pennsylvania's largest cities and it's still drowning, what chance do smaller towns stand? Number 14. Pottstown. Pottstown is another town with a reputation you don't want to test. It's infamous for crime, ranking among the most dangerous cities in Pennsylvania. The property crime rate is the third highest in the state, with break-ins and theft happening at alarming levels. Violent crime is equally concerning, leaving residents on edge. What makes it worse is the false promise of affordability. Homes may look like bargains, but they come with a heavy price: fear. Imagine moving to a place where your front porch becomes a hotspot for police activity. Families here aren't just dealing with tight budgets, they're navigating neighborhoods where safety feels optional. And yet, some newcomers are drawn in by the low cost of living, thinking they found a hidden gem. But here's the truth. When crime shadows every corner, is cheap housing really worth the gamble? And here's the terrifying part. If Pottstown could seem so helpless, what chance do other towns stand that are still ahead on this list? Number 13. Wilkinsburg. Wilkinsburg might look like just another Pittsburgh suburb, but its statistics make it stand out for all the wrong reasons. This small borough carries the highest murder rate in Pennsylvania, a chilling distinction that sends shivers down the spine of anyone thinking about relocating here. Violent crime runs around 779 incidents per 100,000 residents, nearly double the national average. Property crime is also steep, clocking in at 2,618 per 100,000, meaning that even if you dodge violent encounters, your home and car remain far from safe. Median income struggles around $34,000, well below the state norm, leaving little room for financial comfort. Empty storefronts and aging infrastructure add to the sense of decline. Some argue Wilkinsburg offers proximity to Pittsburgh's job market, but proximity doesn't erase fear. The harsh reality is this: you can't build a dream in a place where danger comes standard. And the terrifying part, Wilkinsburg isn't alone. Other towns nearby carry similar scars. Which one comes next? Number 12. New Kensington. Drive just northeast of Pittsburgh, and you'll find New Kensington, a town where economic decline meets rising crime. Once a hub for aluminum manufacturing, its factories shut down long ago, leaving behind empty warehouses and fewer opportunities. Today, property crime is the headline. Your chance of being a victim? About 1 in 37, a risk most families would never want to accept. Violent crime rates also sit uncomfortably above the state average, adding tension to daily life. Median household income floats near $40,000, far short of Pennsylvania's average, meaning many residents are stuck balancing low wages with high risks. Housing prices look appealing at first glance, But it's a trap. Low demand keeps them cheap, not prosperity. Walk through town and you'll see remnants of a once proud industrial base now overshadowed by boarded windows and a shrinking population. Here's the real kicker. If New Kensington's decline could happen so close to Pittsburgh's thriving economy, what does that say about the security of Pennsylvania's smaller, more isolated towns still ahead on this list? Number 11. McKees Rocks. On the edge of Pittsburgh sits McKees Rocks, a borough with a name as tough as its reality. Poverty grips the community, with more than 15% of residents unemployed and job opportunities slipping further away each year. Once a bustling industrial town, the decline of steel left McKees Rocks with empty factories and broken promises. Crime is another daily struggle. Rates are described as way above the national average. For residents, safety is more a hope than a guarantee. Median household income stalls at a level that leaves families balancing bills with stress. The streets tell the story. Rows of homes that look affordable but come with hidden costs of crime, joblessness, and dwindling community pride. Some might argue the low housing prices make it appealing. But let's be honest, when affordability comes wrapped in fear, is it really worth the move? And here's the haunting question. If McKees Rocks can't survive in Pittsburgh's shadow, what about the towns too small to even have a shadow? Number 10. Renovo. Renovo once thrived as a lumber town, but today it's more museum than community. The poverty rate sits at a staggering 33%, nearly triple the state average, leaving many families scraping by. Median household income hovers around $30,495, a canyon away from Pennsylvania's $76,000. Jobs are scarce, with unemployment lingering near 10%. Almost 1 in every 10 adults is jobless. The population trends older, with an average age around 47, signaling that young people are leaving for better opportunities. Housing prices might catch your eye, just $61,300 on average, but that bargain is a red flag, not a reward. You don't want to invest in a place where even the economy has checked out. Walk through Renovo and you'll see the ghosts of sawmills that once powered growth, now replaced by empty lots and faded dreams. The harsh truth? This isn't a town planning for tomorrow. It's one fading into yesterday. But what if I told you the next towns on this list aren't just fading, they're actively pulling you into danger? Number 9. Mount Union. Mount Union's name suggests strength, but the reality is anything but. Here, 34.7% of residents live below the poverty line, more than double both the county and state averages. Median household income comes in at $38,947, less than half of what most Pennsylvanians earn. Housing looks deceptively affordable, with a median value of $99,000, but affordability loses its shine when jobs are scarce. Commute times average 34 minutes, well above state norms, which means more hours in the car and fewer in the community. Education doesn't offer much hope either. Only 11.7% of residents hold a bachelor's degree, compared to 34% statewide. The town's manufacturing backbone, once its lifeline, has all but collapsed. More than 55% of children live below the poverty line, making this less a community and more a cautionary tale. You might save money on a house here, but what good is a house when the future around it is shrinking? And here's the chilling thought. Mount Union's struggle looks bleak, but the next town has been treading water so long it's nearly sunk.
Number 8. Shenandoah. Once a coal boom town, Shenandoah now feels frozen in time. Nearly 32.4% of residents live in poverty, more than double the state average. Median household income is just $40,700, nearly half of Pennsylvania's average. Per capita income floats at $21,600, showing just how thin budgets are stretched. Commutes average 27.4 minutes, long enough to sap time, but not long enough to reach opportunity. Housing seems dirt cheap at $43,500, but that's not value. It's a sign no one's lining up to buy. Education doesn't provide relief either. Only 12% of residents have a bachelor's degree, compared to the state's 34%. The cold trains are gone, but their absence echoes through shuttered storefronts and stagnant wages. Shenandoah whispers nostalgia, but nostalgia doesn't pay the bills or secure a safe future. It's not just that the past is gone, it's that the present isn't promising much either. But if Shenandoah shows the scars of yesterday, the next place proves what happens when poverty meets crime head-on. Number 7. McKeesport. McKeesport is a city caught in a slow-motion collapse. Nearly 33% of its residents live in poverty. That's 1 in 3 households struggling daily. Median household income is about $31,854, less than half the state average. And housing, while seemingly affordable at $69,800, comes with risks no price tag can hide. The population continues to slip away, falling steadily year by year as families choose flight over fight. But the harshest reality is crime. The chance of being a victim of violent crime here is 1 in 63, and for property crime, 1 in 33. Imagine walking out your front door knowing the odds are stacked against you. Commutes drag on at nearly 28 minutes, unemployment lingers high, and optimism feels absent. The truth is, McKeesport isn't just losing residents, it's losing its heartbeat. And if this is what decline looks like in a mid-sized city, what does it mean for Pennsylvania's largest cities still ahead on this list? Number 6. Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love hides a hard truth. Poverty and crime still weigh heavily here. Around 22% of residents live below the poverty line, giving Philly the unwanted title of poorest major U.S. city. Median household income has just topped $60,000, but that's still behind the national average of $77,000. While crime has declined recently, violent crime down 17% in 2025, murders cut nearly in half since pandemic highs, the city still ranks among the most dangerous in America. Retail theft is rising, poverty persists, and income gaps divide entire neighborhoods. Home values hover around $232,000, far from a bargain for what you get in return. Tourists see Independence Hall, but many residents see inequality, crime, and constant struggle. Philadelphia may shine in history books, but living here often feels like a balancing act between opportunity and risk. And here's the cliffhanger. If the biggest city in Pennsylvania can't shed its struggles, what hope do smaller cities drowning in poverty and crime have? Number 5. Allentown. Allentown is Pennsylvania's third largest city, but its size doesn't shield it from struggle. Poverty runs at 21.5%, meaning 1 in 5 residents fights to stay above water. Median household income hovers around $53,400 to $53,800, which is more than $20,000 below the national median. On paper, the cost of living looks manageable, but when paychecks come up short, even average expenses feel crushing. Unemployment ranges from 5.8 to 9.2% depending on the source, a red flag for job seekers. Sure, Allentown has cultural perks, art museums, historic bands, festivals, but none of these cancel out stagnant wages and economic unease. Population growth shows diversity, with over half of residents identifying as Hispanic or Latino, but growth without opportunity creates more pressure, not less. Allentown is a place where culture and hardship collide, where charm struggles to outshine financial distress. And if this city, once a symbol of resilience, teeters on the edge, what about the towns where crime shouts louder than culture? Number 4. Chester. Chester is a city with a past rooted in colonial history, but a present wrapped in poverty and danger. Over 30.8% of residents live below the poverty line, nearly 1 in 3. Median household income stalls at $39,800, and unemployment sits at a staggering 15.9%, triple the state average. But the most alarming numbers are crime. Violent crime rates reach 1,758 per 100,000 people, while property crime is 3,519 per 100,000.
These figures tower above national averages, painting Chester as one of the most unsafe places in the state. Median home values tempt at $84,400, but cheap doesn't mean safe or stable. To make matters worse, Chester declared bankruptcy in 2022, deepening financial chaos and leaving its water system tangled in political fights. Walk the streets and you'll sense the struggle. Communities fighting uphill against odds too high. And here's the sting. If Chester's colonial roots can't save it, what happens in the smaller towns where history has already been forgotten?
Number 3. Rankin. Rankin may be small, but its struggles speak volumes. Nearly 32.6% of residents live below the poverty line, making survival a daily challenge for 1 in 3 people. Median household income sits at just $29,783, less than half of Pennsylvania's state average, while median property values hover at $84,400, a steep drop from the state's $240,000 plus. On paper, crime appears surprisingly low. Overall crime is 57% lower than the national average, and violent crime is 61% lower. But safety doesn't erase stagnation. The borough lost nearly 6% of its population in just 1 year, shrinking to fewer than 1,800 residents. Young adults are leaving, job opportunities are scarce, and the economy offers little more than survival wages. Rankin might look affordable, but affordability tied to decline is no bargain. It's a trap. The chilling reality? Safety alone doesn't make a place livable, and if Rankin's shrinking numbers are any clue, the towns ahead prove affordability can sometimes hide the deepest dangers. Number 2. Nisquehanning. Nisquehanning looks peaceful on the surface, but dig deeper and the cracks show fast. Poverty affects about 16% of residents, above the state average. Median household income is $53,571, trailing Pennsylvania by over $22,000. Median home values rest at $105,400, barely half of the state's, reflecting limited demand. Safety stats might fool you. Crime is 48% lower than the national average, with residents facing a 1 in 85 chance of becoming a victim. But safety doesn't put food on the table. Only 15% of residents hold a bachelor's degree, leaving the workforce underprepared. The average commute stretches 32 minutes, longer than the state average, eating into both time and money. The worst blow came in 2022 when KME Corp, the town's major employer, shut down its factory, leaving hundreds jobless overnight. A solar plant offers a flicker of hope, but is no match for the loss of an entire industry. Nisquehanning offers quiet streets, but peace without opportunity is just another kind of struggle. And that brings us to the most shocking entry of all, the number 1 town you should never move to. Number 1. Mahanoy City. Mahanoy City wears the title of Pennsylvania's worst place to live, and the statistics explain why. Nearly 29% of residents live below the poverty line, almost triple the national average. Median household income is just $37,400, less than half of what most families across the state earn. At first glance, housing looks like a steal. Median values sit at a rock-bottom $36,000. But that's not opportunity. That's desperation disguised as affordability. Population decline tells the rest of the story. Once home to thousands, Mahanoy City has shrunk to barely 3,500 residents, and the number continues to drop year after year. Job prospects are thin, with many locals commuting out or relying on industries that are fading fast. Only 10% of residents hold a bachelor's degree, trapping the community in cycles of low wages and limited growth. Even crime, though not as chaotic as Philadelphia or Chester, still creeps above small-town expectations, with property thefts and vandalism adding to the daily grind. This isn't a town preparing for the future. It's one stuck in survival mode. If Pennsylvania's most affordable town carries the highest hidden costs, what does that say about the dream of cheap living anywhere in America? So there you have it, 15 Pennsylvania towns where affordable living is just code for potholes, boarded windows, and crime statistics you don't want to test. But here's the fun part. Pennsylvania doesn't own the monopoly on regret. There are plenty of other states where you can buy a house for dirt cheap and then spend every night locking the door.